What should a South African Chardonnay taste like? That's a very interesting question, because whether you come from Stellenbosch, from Franschhoek, from Elemenard de Valley, or from Robertson, you might have a different opinion of what a South African Chardonnay should be or should taste like. So it can be very interesting to see Atlas Swift, a new winery in Franschhoek, to have this sheltered Chardonnay 2020, which is actually a blend of different origins. You have some Cape South Coast, really cool climate Cape South Coast. You have some Ciderberg. You have the chalky soil of Robertson, and you have some ripeness from Wellington. So in that puzzle of different origin to make what people would like to be the perfect blend or the greatest example of Chardonnay from South Africa, what do you have in your glass, Kathy?
I'm not 100% sure about what I have in the glass, JV. Because to me this wine is not really expressing much in terms of primary fruit. I get a little bit of preserved lemon, some anise and some nuts, but what I am getting from this wine is actually more a sense of soil. I don't know, I can smell soil. And when I smell this soil, it kind of reminds me of different vineyards I've walked in. And it's possibly me being just a little bit romantic, but I really do. When I smell soil, I'm thinking of some of the slate that I've walked in, some of the granite, some of the quartz that I've seen, some of that really deep red soil that you can get in the Klein Karoo, and then the grey soils that you get elsewhere. So it's quite interesting for me that this wine is not really trying to speak to me. Don't know who would want to on this Sunday morning, but it's not really trying to speak to me on a fruitful level. It's trying to speak to me on more a visceral level. And for me, that viscerality is taking me to soil. And I think that's quite important, because on the palate too, it's kind of mineral and textured, but it, once again, not much flavor for me. It makes me think, as does your question, what should Chardonnay taste like?
It's a very good question. I mean, you have preserved lemon, I have lemon confit on a Provence style, which means it's lemon which are cooked in sugar, lemon zest. I have as well these tea flavors, but more a green tea like Japanese matcha tea, and maybe a bit of this Argentinian mate infusion, which is showing a lot of complexity for a wine only from 2020, but as well the texture is impressive, because the texture is like multidimensional with a cleansing effect. So I don't know if it's coming from the Robertson high acidity slate of the Cape South Coast high freshness, but there's nothing, it's intense but not exhausting. And yes, for me the texture is taking over the primary fruit, because the primary fruit might not have been the goal here. It's really a wine that is playing on like a mosaic of effect, like a firework, more than just an Instagram picture.
That's very interesting. But you also touched on something there that was quite impressive. You know, sometimes people describe a wine in a glass as being dead or soulless. And yet this wine seems to have...
I don't want to know wines like that.
No, neither do I. But this wine has this core of freshness that this just bursts with flavour. No, sorry, not flavour, just bursts.
Burst is a good definition.
With freshness. So that's really quite nice to come with. But I also like you summing it up that maybe fruit was not the goal here. Maybe we were meant to be thinking of something else.
Yeah, primary fruit, probably not the goal here, and it's not what you need to look for when you're drinking that wine. However, the texture and a lot of this refreshing component can... it's new, it's different, it's a dry wine, the alcohol is perfectly under control, and you can imagine having the ripeness of Wellington, having the freshness of Robertson or the Cape South Coast. Robertson, the freshness, because we all know that the high content of lime in the soil is giving a fresh lemony, zingy acidity into the wine, and the altitude of the Cederberg.
Interesting.
It might not be the ideal Chardonnay from South Africa, but it can be a very interesting facet of what Chardonnay can give in South Africa. Well done, Atlas Swift, based in Franschhoek, Chardonnay, The Shelter, 2020.
Get thinking.